There isn't a person watching right now who hasn't been through a moment just like this. It should have been one of the best times of my life. I had just sold our family's wine business, the one my grandfather started back in the 1950s. For the first time in my life, I actually had money, real money. But instead of feeling secure, I was miserable. Why? Because I was in the process of making every mistake in the book. No plan, no tax strategy, too much in the stock market. I underestimated how much I was spending and overestimated how quickly I could start earning money again. Then came 2008, the Great Recession. Now, a lot of people panicked and sold because they were scared during that time. I sold because I had to. I needed to pay my bills. And that's what happens when you don't plan ahead. Your emotions aren't what cost you, your circumstances do. I had no system, no structure, and no strategy. So while I was traveling around the country trying to start a new business, my investments were tanking and I was selling and selling and selling just to stay afloat. You know, the 401k turning into the 201k joke, right? Haha. My 401k balance, it felt like it vanished. And along with it went my confidence, my sense of control, and honestly, a little bit of myself. Is this the saddest story you'll hear today? Of course not. But it is my story. And our experiences, good or bad, shape who we are, how we think, and whether we walk into our next chapter of our lives with peace or regret. So that's what today's video is about, regret. Not as something to dwell on, but something to learn from. Because here's the truth. Financial regrets don't have to define your story. They can refine your story. In this video, I'll share 5 lessons that can help you overcome financial regret and move into retirement with clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. And I'll do that after I quickly introduce myself. Welcome to the Retirement Guy channel. I'm Daryl. I help people plan for retirement. And believe it or not, part of that job is convincing people it's okay to spend their own money. You'd be surprised how hard that is. You can learn a lot more about what I do at theretirementguy.com. So let's get started. Lesson number 1 is forgive yourself, then get curious. Let's start with the hardest truth. You can't move forward if you're still beating yourself over the past. There's a 2023 AARP study that found that 68% of adults over 50 have made at least one major money mistake. Investing too late, cashing out a 401k, or claiming Social Security too early. More than half say those regrets still weigh on them years later. Side note, just 68%? So here's what I tell people that I come into contact with, because everybody's got regrets. It's not what you have today that matters, it's what you do next in your financial life. And I have these conversations all the time. People wish they'd saved more, worked longer, or done that Roth conversion back in 2014. But here's the shift. Instead of asking, how could I be so stupid? Ask, what can I learn from this? That one question changes everything. In fact, the University of Michigan did a study and they found that people who reframe regret as education are 25% more likely to take positive financial action within 6 months. It's like what I told one of my boys recently when he moved out and things didn't go quite as planned. Hey, chalk it up as a learning experience. Sometimes the only way forward is through a hard lesson. And when I look back at what happened in 2008, sure, I cringe. But I also see the start of everything good that came after, the career change, the securement method, and the work I do now helping others avoid that same pain. Forgiveness doesn't erase the mistake. It extracts the lesson. And once you forgive yourself, you stop seeing your past as proof you failed and start seeing it as proof you lived, learned, and kept going. Here's lesson number 2, rebuild confidence, not just your bank account. After a financial setback, it's not just your balance that takes a hit, it's your confidence, it's your mind frame. You start second guessing every move. Should I invest again? Should I wait? What if I mess it up again this time? But here's the irony. Trying too hard not to make another mistake is how a lot of people end up making a new mistake. Morningstar found that over the last 20 years, the average equity investor underperforms the S&P 500 by 3.6% a year. Not because they picked bad investments. That's not the reason. It's because they jumped in and out of the market at the exact wrong time. Fear, not logic, was driving the bus. So confidence doesn't come from calling the next market move. It comes from having a plan that works no matter what the market is doing. That's why in the securement method, we focus on what I call financial strength through simplicity. When your plan is clear, your income streams are mapped out, your risk is balanced and your tax strategies dialed in, you stop reacting and start responding. You don't need to necessarily know how the market is going to do next week if you have that plan. I worked with a client recently who hadn't invested in almost 5 years. He said, Daryl, I just don't trust myself anymore. So we built a plan that took the guesswork out, automatic income, structured risk, guardrails for emotions. And within a few months, he said, I feel like I finally got my power back. That's what rebuilding confidence really means. It's not about erasing your past. It's about trusting your future. Because once you do that, the numbers start to recover. But more importantly, you do as well. Lesson number 3 is redefine what winning actually means. So after selling the business, I thought life would feel easier with less pressure and more freedom. A happy ending to a long, hard run. But it didn't feel that way at all. The noise was gone for sure, but so was that structure. So I wasn't flying to meetings or managing hundreds of employees anymore. But also the checks stopped, and then the market tanked. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't know what was next. I spent a lot of time looking backwards at what I felt I'd lost instead of forwards. And, regret has a funny way of blinding you to what's still right in front of you. It took years, not weeks, to see that in the middle of that uncertainty, something really important was happening. I was home more. I drove the boys to school. I ran more until my knee gave out. Dinner wasn't a blur between calls anymore. It was an actual conversation. My relationships deepened. My life slowed down just enough to let me appreciate it a bit. At the time, I didn't see that as winning. I saw it as losing. But looking back, it was one of the richest seasons of my life, not financially, but emotionally. So Morgan Housel writes about this in Psychology of Money. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. And that quote hit me later because I realized my goalpost had always been about earning more, not wanting less. And here's the truth. Sometimes winning doesn't look like growth. Sometimes it looks like breathing room. A 2023 Fidelity study found that retirees who measure success by life satisfaction instead of portfolio size are twice as likely to describe themselves as thriving. That's because wealth doesn't always show up in the numbers. Sometimes it shows up in the moments. So part of beating back regret is learning to reframe it, not years later, but in real time. To say this feels hard, but maybe there's something good in it I just can't see yet. What I have learned in my personal life and watching my clients is that success and retirement in life isn't about what's growing in your bank account, your investment account. It's what's growing in your head and your heart. Lesson number 4 is plan for flexibility, not perfection. Here's the truth. The best retirement plan isn't the one that looks perfect on paper. It's the one that still works when life doesn't go according to plan. Because something will always change. Markets drop, taxes rise, knees give out, grandkids get born 3 states away. And if your plan can't adapt, it's not really a plan. It's a problem waiting to happen. Vanguard published a study showing that retirees who revisit and adjust their plans at least once a year have 31% better long-term outcomes than those who set it and forget it. And the reason is because life doesn't run on a formula. It runs on feelings, seasons, and surprises. A client of mine, and this won't surprise you because he's a retired engineer, he used to rerun his retirement spreadsheets every single week. He said it made him feel in control, but really it was exhausting him. So we built a plan that gave him structure and space, flexible income buckets, clear rules for withdrawals, and permission to check his balances only twice a year. He told me later, Daryl, for the first time, my plan doesn't own me. I own my plan. And that's the point. The goal isn't perfection, it's durability. A great plan bends without breaking. It breathes, it evolves, because the only guarantee in retirement is that something will change. And when it does, you'll be ready. Lesson number 5 is use your money for meaning. At some point, the numbers stop being the point, right? You reach a place where your portfolio is solid, your income steady, and you've checked all the responsible adult boxes, but something still feels like it's missing. And it's usually not another decimal place. The Journal of Positive Psychology found that retirees who spend money on experiences instead of possessions report 30% higher life satisfaction. The reason is because stuff ages, memories appreciate. One of my clients, a retired teacher, said something that has stuck with me for many years now. My happiest moments don't show up on my statement. I think she's right. Meaning doesn't come from spreadsheets. It comes from connection, human connection, from using what you've built to do something that truly matters to you. That could mean helping a grandchild through college, taking the family on a trip while you're still healthy enough to enjoy it, or volunteering or giving or saying yes to moments you've been putting off for years. After selling my business, I didn't have the same financial comfort for a while, but I had something better. Time. Time to be present, time with Jill and the boys, time to take walks, help her cook dinner, or actually clean up, and to laugh more. That's when it hit me. The real return on investment isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in days well spent. Your money's job in retirement isn't to grow endlessly. It's to make your life richer. So if you're sitting on the fence about taking that trip, giving that gift, or finally doing that thing you've always wanted to, stop waiting for the perfect timing. The value isn't in the transaction, it's in the memory that comes after. Because at this stage of life, the goal isn't to have more money. It's to make sure your money has some meaning for you. If there's one thing I learned from the wine business to wealth management, it's that regret can either anchor you or redirect you. When I look back at 2008, I still remember the pit in my stomach, watching everything I built start to crumble. But that same season, the one that felt like failure, became the foundation for everything that came after. Because regret isn't the enemy. It's the teacher that shows up late, but never leaves empty-handed. Every conversation I have today with couples preparing to retire, with clients wondering if they've done enough, traces back to that moment, the uncertainty, the fear, the realization that money without meaning is just math. And here's what I've come to believe. We all get a second chance, not to rewrite our past, but to redesign our future, to forgive ourselves, to find balance between planning and living, to use what we've earned to build a life that feels full, not just funded. That's why I created the Securement Method, to help people like you build not just wealth, but financial security in retirement. Because peace of mind, it doesn't come from having every dollar perfectly allocated. It really comes from knowing you've aligned that plan, your plan, with your life's purpose. So if you're at that stage where you're asking, did I do enough, or am I missing something? Maybe it's time to find out for sure. A flat fee securement review can help you pressure test your income plan, your taxes, your risk, without a sales pitch, without strings, just honest advice to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. Because at the end of the day, I firmly believe that regret fades when direction returns. And if you can find a little more peace, purpose, and optimism about your next chapter, well, that's what I would call winning. Go to theretirementguy.com for more information. If you like this video, you might like this one. And as always, thank you so much for watching.